We may not all understand the technical, philosophical terminology that philosophers use to dissect and describe things that we can and cannot know.
If you care to know, you can find all of those terms defined and explained in simple terms with only a white belt in Google Foo. But you know what this bumpkin is really trying to say. You don't need no book learning. You got yourself the Lord. What a maroon. Let's do this.
Round 1, fight!
Delusion!
Logic boo! Logic boo!
You win!
Greetings, fellow space travelers. BionicDance here. Before we go any further, I'd like to introduce you to another member of the BionicDance family. This is Zander. He's 4 months old, and he's been in the house for about 5 days, the first 2 of which were spent convincing Columbia she shouldn't murder him. There is a good chance you'll be seeing a lot of him. He's rambunctious, full of energy, and he desperately wants to explore this desk in front of me. For you geekatrons out there, yes, I named him after the character from Buffy. I had about 5 minutes when I thought it'd be funny to name him Kung Pao Chicken, but the humor wore off fast and I couldn't think of a good way to nickname it, so I went with Zander. And before anybody points it out, yes, this guy sounds like Kyle Butt. That's because it's the same channel. Someone always has to say something in the comments, and yes, we know. It should be unremarkable at this point.
But most rational people understand that there are some things we can know and some things we cannot. We can know that we exist. We can know that 1 + 1 = 2. We can know that yesterday is in the past and tomorrow is yet to be seen and full of the unknown.
True enough, but the relevant question here is, how do we know these things? And the answer? They've been put to the test and found to be consistently the case. We could spend a whole video on cogito ergo sum, I think, therefore I am. Suffice to say, it's a reasonable enough standard to judge whether we exist. We've added 2 and 2 to make 4. We can demonstrate it. Weird thought, you ever notice they always use 2 + 2 = 4 and never 1 + 1 = 2? What's that about? And most of us have lived through several thousand days and found that 1 is always followed by 1 more, the contents of which we can only guess based on previous experience. Each of these principles, perhaps even axioms, have proved to be consistently so, enough that doubting them is foolish. If something cannot be demonstrated, believing without at least attempting to demonstrate it is pretty chowder-headed, and even then it might not be justifiable to believe it.
What's mind-boggling are those things that atheistic evolutionists say Christians cannot know, while at the same time assuring the world of the many things that they know regarding the origins of man and the universe.
Please stop saying evolutionists. That's not a thing. And there are plenty of theists out there who are convinced evolution happens. Yes, happens. It's still going on. It's not over. The only way for evolution to end is for every living thing in the universe to die. They might claim it's the tool their God used to bring about mankind, but evolution is not exclusive to atheists. And it's entirely possible to be an atheist and doubt evolution. A God, whether yours or anybody else's, is not the only alternative should evolution prove false, which it doesn't, hasn't, isn't. The evidence for evolution is overwhelming.
Atheists contend that Christians cannot know that there is a creator, and that in fact they know that there is not a creator.
Oh, I so wish it was Kyle Butt making this video so I could say, "Holy straw man argument, Buttman!" Not every atheist is a hard atheist, nor do most of us say that you can't know there is a creator, only that your Bronze Age myth and your zealotry aren't enough to demonstrate that there is one. And you might start to notice a pattern here. There is what you say, and there is what you can show, what you can demonstrate. And this fella isn't even gonna try.
Yet they will affirm that they know that the universe is the result of an infinitesimal ball of matter that exploded about 14 billion years ago.
Again, the relevant question is why? How can someone make this claim without blushing? And how is it different from the claims made by theists? The difference is evidence, and the ability and willingness to extrapolate from demonstrable data. Again, something far too many theists won't even attempt.
After explaining that the universe came into existence billions of years ago from nothing in a black hole, the late world-renowned atheistic cosmologist Stephen Hawking said, "That is exactly what happened at the start of the universe.
There are YouTubers out there who are better versed in astrophysics than I, who can explain the difference between a black hole and a singularity. I'm just here to point out the flaws in the mindset, the paradigm, the assumptions and methodology used by creationists like this yokel that serve only to obscure reality in favor of faith and feelings. Facts be damned. I'm more philosopher than scientist, and I won't pretend otherwise, but I definitely know more about science and the universe than this chucklehead.
Really? How did he know exactly what happened 14 billion years ago? Atheists contend that Christians cannot know that Christ lived, died, and arose from the dead 2,000 years ago, yet they claim to know exactly what happened 14 billion years ago.
How much time has passed has nothing to do with it. It all comes down to evidence and the ability to extrapolate from it. As he said, 2 + 2 = 4, one day follows another, and the universe appears to function in similarly consistent ways. Until you get down to the quantum level anyway, but much like astrophysics, I'll leave that rabbit hole to be spelunked by others. I tried it once, and while I think I got it mostly correct, I admit that it's kind of above my pay grade. Point being, since we see such consistency, we can demonstrate that consistency with cause following effect. We can work our way backward to figure out what must have happened, the same way we can figure out that the crashing sounds in the other room, the sudden meowing and scampering, and the broken things on the floor were probably caused by the new kitten being a kitten. Only, a lot more technical. By contrast, the evidence we have for Jesus might lead us to there historically being a dude who started Judaism 2.0, which we named after him. Maybe. But we definitely don't have evidence that he or anybody else had magical powers, whether they're like the ones in the Jesus Handbook or something else. Even though the Jesus myth is more recent, we have fewer data from which to extrapolate than we do for the Big Bang. And that's all that matters. There are people who believe that there was a second gunman on the grassy knoll and that aliens conduct involuntary proctology exams. And these things happened mere decades ago. But we still call the people who believe them conspiracy theorists. Or complete nutbars. And yet, we have far more evidence for snipers and extraterrestrials than we do for Middle Eastern sorcerers with career goals that include martyrdom. In a truly rational world, God-botherers would be thought even loopier than your average bunker-dwelling tinfoil hat enthusiast. But here we are.
Atheists contend that Christians cannot know that life was created by a supernatural creator a few thousand years ago, even though biogenesis has repeatedly proven itself true that in nature life comes only from life and that of its own kind.
What we have here is allowing sloppy use of language to poorly shape a worldview. No, we don't ever see life coming from life. What we see is life continuing from life. This is not life beginning, it's life reproducing. And let's not even talk about this kind crapola, which they refuse to define despite repeated and constant pleas for them to do so. Do your homework. The evidence shows that this is utter BS.
Atheistic evolutionists claim to know the very opposite to be true. In nature, life evolved from non-life billions of years ago.
For the 80 gajillionth time, abiogenesis and evolution are not the same thing. It's amazing how people can be told this over and over and over, but they insist upon this straw man. That and atheism has nothing to do with it. Evolution is science, not theology or a response to it. But despite being told this repeatedly, jackasses like this guy persist in assuming that atheism comes with all this baggage. Baggage which, yes, is common among atheists, but which isn't part of atheism in any way. As I said before, there are theists who are convinced of this stuff too.
Atheists contend that Christians cannot know that a creator made sea creatures and land animals, but they affirm with all confidence that fish flopped out of water and evolved into amphibians and reptiles, while certain land animals drifted out into water and evolved fins, flukes, and blowholes.
Oh, I think we know who evolved a blowhole here. But again, if you follow the evidence where it leads, evolution isn't just a contention. It's as indisputable a fact as 2 + 2 = 4. I, an atheist, say you can't know there's a creator because you don't have evidence. All you have are Bronze Age assertions unsupported by data. Show so versus say so. This wouldn't be a difficult equation if you weren't so attached to your mythology.
Atheists contend that Christians cannot know that human life was specially created differently from all other creation. But they supposedly know that humans evolved from ape-like creatures.
And we know this because of fossils and DNA. And you have your Bronze Age book. Okay, I'm gonna skip a bit. He mostly just says the same things in different ways over and over. Atheists say this, Christians say that, and it's getting old. Let's spin on, shall we? Link in the descriptee place if you want to see what I left out and decide whether it's fair. And brace yourselves, yeah, they screen their comments.
Atheists contend that Christians cannot know that the Bible is from God, but they can know that their man-made, assumption-based, often contradictory dating techniques somehow prove that various rocks on Earth are billions of years old.
Okay, so I told a lie. I had to show this one. The imagery of scientists conducting lab experiments while claiming that dating methods are assumption-based was just too good to pass up. Okay, so sometimes human-conducted science will make a boo-boo. The Bible is chock full of giant whoppers that go beyond boo-boo into full-on dismemberment.
As one world-renowned atheist put it a few years ago,
"You're watching BionicDance. Don't run on automatic, instead, please think."
Or is that not where you were headed with this?
creation-believing Christians who refuse to accept the alleged fact of evolution are ignorant, stupid, or insane. Why? Because we believe, based upon evidence, that the universe is an effect of a cause that must be much greater than the explosion of a tiny ball of matter?
No, because you believe that stuff without evidence, or with bad evidence. Because your methodology and thinking are based more on feelings and faith than they are on logic and reason. I don't care whether that question was rhetorical. Don't go asking if you don't want the answer.
Because Christians contend that the answers that the Creator provided for us in His inspired, ever-enduring, never-changing Word, rather than in the ever-changing, constantly revised fable of evolution?
The Creator's Word, or the word of primitive humans who thought there was a Creator. You have to prove a God exists before we accept the Bible as His Word. And never changing. I've got 2 different Bibles here, sunshine, and neither of them matches the original text exactly. There are so many iterations of the Bible, it's not even funny. Actually, I take that back, it is rather amusing. And now some Christian is furiously typing in the comments that they're different translations, not different versions, but that's a distinction without a difference. We wouldn't need different translations if God's Word was so perfect.
Leading atheists act as if they know exactly what happened at the start of the universe, even though allegedly no conscious being was around 14 billion years ago to witness it.
Altogether now, we've extrapolated from known data. If you can demonstrate how the universe works, you can deduce what happened in the past. Direct witnesses are unnecessary.
Christians, on the other hand, choose to believe in the answers of the one who was at creation and who did the creating.
I'd be a lot more willing to take that into account if this alleged one would show up, instead of being so transparently imaginary. You can choose to believe whatever you like, but if you can't demonstrate it, you're just talking crap. I know it, we know it, and you ought to know it. Until next time, fellow space travelers, this is BionicDance saying don't run on automatic. Instead, please think. And there are plenty of theists out there who are convinced that... Convinced, okay. By contrast, the evidence we have for Jesus might lead us to there historically being a dude who's... started... Ruh-roh. Stop that, you cats. No fighting. But we definitely don't have evidence that he or anybody else had magical powers, whether all you have are Bronze Age assertions, so
Even YouTubers need Ferraris. Please donate on Patreon.
And remember, if it can't be in your hand, it's all in your head.